Welcome to the Greenwood District, a historic district in Tulsa, Oklahoma, once known as America's Black Wall Street, one of the most prosperous and wealthy Black communities for African American businesses in America during the early 20th century. Today, the Tulsa community is working together to restore its former glory. With the centennial anniversary approaching, the urge to rebuild is stronger than ever. But how was a small community right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, viewed as one of the most successful African American communities in the 20th century? This isn't a story that's often told in school books.
It was a hub of entrepreneurial activity, mostly small businesses. So there would be haberdasseries and movie theaters and rooming houses and hotels and garages, service providers like doctors and lawyers, just a proliferation and concentration of Black businesses.
When Tulsa became a booming and well-known town in the United States, some consider Tulsa to be two separate cities. The white residents of Tulsa referred to the area of North as Little Africa. Many Americans, including African Americans, had moved to Oklahoma in hopes of gaining economic success through the oil industries. Even though Blacks were only a small percentage of the overall population in Oklahoma, the percentage of African Americans in Tulsa has significantly increased.
O.W. Gurley is considered the father of Black Wall Street, the Greenwood District. He migrated here from Arkansas, had some money, bought some land, started the first business in 1906. Other businesses just proliferated after that. Oklahoma was not a state in 1906. Oklahoma becomes a state in 1907. So prior to statehood, Oklahoma was widely perceived as a land of opportunity for African Americans. Because there was abundant land, and because Oklahoma, not being a state, had not enacted a lot of the segregation measures that were prevalent in places like Alabama and Mississippi and Georgia and so forth.
Eventually, Oklahoma adopted some of the most unjust Jim Crow laws in the country. This forced many Blacks to spend their money where they would feel welcome. In return, allowed the Greenwood community to bloom and prosper. On Black Wall Street, there were 108 Black-owned businesses, attorneys, real estate agents, dentists, served nearly 10,000 residents. Deep Greenwood also included clothing stores, hotels, hairdressers, shoemakers, tailors, and nightclubs. Because most white establishments refused to serve African Americans, Black entrepreneurs held a captive market. Black Wall Street got so much buzz that Booker T. Washington visited, and he referred to the Greenwood neighborhood as Negro Wall Street.
The other thing that's going on in the United States more generally is lynching, really domestic terrorism against African Americans to teach them their relative value and place in society. So that structural dynamic, that systemic racism, is part of the root cause of what happened here in 1921, as is what I call land lust. The Greenwood District, the Black community in Tulsa, sits on a parcel that abuts downtown, separated only by the Frisco tracks. And this land was desired by railroad interests and other corporate interests. So that's a factor. The other factor, psychologically, is just jealousy. There was a high degree of home ownership in the Black community in Tulsa. There was relative wealth because it was a business community. And white folks simply were jealous. What happened in Tulsa in 1921 are the growth of the Klan during this period, during the 1920s, and the role of the media. A particular media outlet called the Tulsa Tribune, which is an afternoon daily newspaper, published a series of really incendiary, inflammatory articles and editorials that really got the white community stirred up. So all these things led to the kind of crucible-like conditions that existed in Tulsa at the time. All that was needed was some sort of match or igniter to be thrown on what was a tinderbox in Tulsa. And that match or that igniter was an incident that involved two teenagers, a Black 19-year-old boy named Dick Rowland and a white girl, Sarah Page, who was 17 years old, who was an elevator operator. Dick Rowland boarded the elevator one day to use the restroom. It was Monday, May 30th, 1921. Something happened on the elevator. We'll never know exactly what it was, but he bumped into or brushed up against Sarah Page. She overreacted, was distraught. A clerk from a nearby store came to her assistance. The media, the Tulsa Tribune, got word of it, and they published an article the next day that essentially said that there was an attempted rape in broad daylight in a public building in Tulsa. It really inflamed the community, and things just went haywire after that.
With the support of law enforcement, angry armed white protesters began to wreak havoc on Greenwood District. On May 31st, 1921, an untold number of women and children were killed, thousands severely injured. 35 square blocks of Greenwood, both businesses and residential neighborhoods, were gone, destroyed, and nearly 10,000 African Americans, virtually the entire population of Tulsa, were left homeless. The days of May 31st through June 1st remains one of the darkest days in the history of Tulsa. The Greenwood Culture Center, dedicated October 22, 1995, was created as a tribute to Greenwood's history and a symbol as hope for the community's future. The center has a museum, an African American art gallery. Located just outside is the Mackey home, which is the only home built in the 1920s that still remains. Across the way is where you can see the church that withstood the riot. Today, the Greenwood District houses an assortment of businesses and organizations. The motivation is stronger than ever to rebuild what was known as the greatest Black communities in America.
So Wanda J started in the Tulsa Community in 1974. Wanda J is actually my grandmother. She had her first restaurant on North Peoria. I've been here since 2016. This will be our third year in October. Saturday is one of our busiest days, and we get tourists from all over. Like, they constantly come down here and they want to know about history. And so they stop in the restaurant, they get something to eat. I think there needs to be more businesses in general on Black Wall Street. It doesn't necessarily have to be all Black businesses. Just anybody with the entrepreneur spirit should be more than welcome to open a business here.
My name is Dr. Ricco Wright. I'm the owner of Black Wall Street Gallery. It was my idea of creating platforms and granting access to local artists here in Tulsa. I also wanted a place where I could introduce my philosophy. The philosophical doctrine is called socio-racial idealism, starting with conciliation and then moving to healing, then unity, and it all culminates in love. So it's mostly visual art. We have artists from different levels that actually show their work. In the Conciliation series, which was a 12-month experiential exhibition, we paired one Black artist with one white artist every month. And they ranged from painters to sculptors, sculptresses. I think the most impactful thing was the idea of pairing a Black artist and a white artist, and then seeing people from different walks of life come to view the artwork and to patronize the gallery. People come to pay their respects to Black Wall Street pioneers and that history. They come to learn the history. They come to understand the conditions under which it exists today. There's Black Wall Street paraphernalia. We do consignment with local jewelry artists, and starting in December, we'll sell vinyl records. We're in what I consider to be Black Wall Street 3.0, and we're we're in the midst of a complete resurgence. And I absolutely love being part of that history because we get to create opportunities for the youth to follow the path that we've created that was once created by the pioneers.
So my name is Onika Asamoah Caesar, and so one of the things that I launched was Dream Tulsa, and that was basically a call to see if there were Black professionals from across the United States who wanted to come learn about Tulsa, learn about the folks that are here, learn about what we are building, and potentially be a part of that story. Community building is a part of who I am, and I am a fan of legacy building and reclaiming legacies. And so one of the things that's exciting about Tulsa is we have the opportunity to reclaim a rich legacy here that was lost, and to continue to build on what our ancestors built here. I work for the George Kaiser Family Foundation, and we do a lot of work in equity. So one of the things that I was able to do was to launch Dream Tulsa. And Dream Tulsa, to me, is very reminiscent of what happened here decades and decades ago, which was an open call to say, if you are a young Black professional who is interested in building, interested in entrepreneurship, and interested in being part of the future of Black Wall Street, we want you to come to Tulsa. We want you to bring your ideas. We want you to bring your networks. We want you to increase the social capital of this city and the people here.
Anybody know what credit is? Well, it can be good and it can be bad, but what is credit?
The school is called the Management Business Academy, and we are teaching financial literacy to the youth and also showing them how to duplicate that so we can create generational wealth. Not just create business owners, entrepreneurs, but show them how to duplicate that so they continue on. The generations after them also become business owners and entrepreneurs.
The John Hope Franklin Center Park was established in 2010 in memory of the Tulsa Massacre and reconciliation amongst the community. People of all backgrounds can come, honor, and learn about the history and destruction of Black Wall Street. The Greenwood Museum, a $25 million expansion, renovation, and rebranding of the Greenwood Culture Center, could open before the centennial of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. The project would include a large addition designed to convey the story of Greenwood before and after the riot.
The museum facility will be a world-class facility that tells the whole narrative of the Greenwood District history. So the focus of the museum is on the human spirit, which I alluded to earlier. So it certainly will tell the story of the riot/massacre, but it will also tell the story of the entrepreneurs who envisioned this community, who built it and sustained it over time.
You've got an idea and you see value in that idea, you're passionate about it. Believe in yourself that you can execute and succeed. Get to know people who are in positions to help you. You've got to have a business plan or a pro forma.
Black people are entrepreneurs through and through. We are the masters of the side hustle. That is entrepreneurship. You have so many people who are working full-time jobs and doing things on the side that we often don't consider businesses, but those are businesses.
Us as a people is showing us how successful and how of an impact we can have if we come together. As people. I'm proud to say that as far as my generation, it's a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners coming up, building Greenwood back up right now as we speak. And it's the future is looking very bright, very bright.
So what I tell people is that what's important to remember about Black Wall Street is that Black Wall Street isn't a physical space necessarily. Black Wall Street is a mindset. Black Wall Street really is about the human spirit, the indomitable human spirit, the can-do spirit. So we have role models in our history in Tulsa and elsewhere who show us that Black folks can be successful as entrepreneurs. If these folks in Tulsa could be successful in the 19-teens and the early 1920s against incredible odds and racism, the likes of which we'll never see again, I hope, we can be successful today with all the opportunities that we have.
There is so much for this generation of young entrepreneurs to inspire from. A wealthy, self-made community that built everything from the ground up. African Americans were able to prosper and excel during a time when they didn't have equal rights. Black Wall Street Tulsa is an example that hard work is achievable through success despite adversity.
I'm working on another book that'll be out in February that is a supplement to Black Wall Street. It answers the question that's going to be on everybody's mind in 2021, which is, what's different about Tulsa today?